Doing that with each other. When we have the panelists up here, I want you doing that with them. Clarify, inspire, and debate. Let's try and come to some conclusions about what we do and how we do it, because I think that'll be a very exciting piece of what we do. So, without further ado, and moving into our agenda, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce, I'm using Twitter bios today to introduce people, because I think what you put on your Twitter bio is actually quite telling about what you want the world to know. So, it is my pleasure to introduce the president and CEO of the 4A's, Nancy Hill, who is a longtime ad agency veteran, volunteer builder of schools in Ecuador. Very impressive. Nancy?
Thank you. It is really interesting to be here 10 years after meeting Michael and talking about data on a Tuesday in a J. Walter Thompson space, of all things. Michael joined IPG in 1995, and if any of you remember what was going on in IPG at the time, Michael had a lot of cleaning up to do. And he's done a remarkable job of righting the ship and getting it headed in the right direction. And he's going to join me up here this morning to talk a little bit about what data means to IPG and what that will mean for the rest of us moving forward. So welcome, Michael Roth.
My pleasure. Time flies when you're having a good time.
Yeah, no kidding. Michael, complete disclosure, I worked for IPG twice, and the second time was reporting to Michael. And Michael hired me. I think I was one of your early hires right after you got there. Mm-hmm. And we had the great fortune of Michael discovering Can for the first time, and the gutter bar, which was a really unusual moment in time. But we're here to talk about data today. And one of the things that I think is really interesting about data and the role that it's playing in our industry right now is that there's a lot of debate as to data, what its import is, how it should be used, when it should be used. And I found a quote from Nielsen, of all people, that said, "The price of light is less than the cost of darkness." And I think that the companies that are doing really well with data are doing well because they're shining light on the data and helping the clients get through all of that. So tell us a little bit, Michael, about why data is so important to IPG.
Well, it's first of all, it's great to be here, and good morning to everybody. Let's face it, we're in the marketing and communication business. Our job is to represent our clients in reaching the consumer. And we have to use all available information to enable us to get a story out and reach that consumer to help them engage with our clients and ultimately lead to, frankly, a commercial transaction. And I actually think the growth of data and more importantly, data analytics is critical to what we do for our clients. The sooner in the purchasing journey we have insights with respect to the consumer, the better our story can be told. And in fact, to the extent we can use data and data analytics to anticipate what the consumer is going to do, it's even better. So more data is better. I guess you can say there's, 80% of the data, I don't have to tell all of you, you know it, 80% of the data that's out there is chaotic, right? It's out there, you don't know what to do with it. Our job is to take that data, make sense out of it, and convert it to a program of consumer interaction. So it's imperative for us to get the message out there to the right person at the right time and in the right way that they're looking for it, because in my view, consumers don't mind receiving these type of messaging, if you will, when it's relevant to what they're doing. So our job is to use the data, and more importantly, the data analytics, to create a story that's relevant to the consumer in a way that enhances the experience. And if you're able to do that, then you develop a relationship with that consumer that's trustworthy and consistent. And that's ultimately what our objective is. So we are constantly searching for better data so that we can frankly distinguish ourselves in an environment that's very competitive. And let's face it, we all have data analytics in terms of our business. We all have very talented people, and the competitive advantage of having insights that potentially others don't have makes a difference to our clients. So we are constantly hiring people, investing in companies, looking for data sources and insights that distinguish us from our competitors. So that's why when Nancy asked me to do this, it's imperative that we continue the journey. Because let's face it, this is a journey. Every day we're seeing more capabilities that are out there, which is really very exciting. If those of you who went to CES, you can just see what's coming down the horizon in terms of opportunities to use technology in a consumer-based society. And our job is to advise our clients. And unless we're ahead of the curve and able to make sense out of all of this, we're not doing our job, and therefore we will become irrelevant. So that's why we continue to invest in it, and I'm always interested. I call them bright, shiny objects, but it's more than bright, shiny objects. It's become part of the DNA of what we do. And media in particular is critical in an integrated offering, which is what clients are looking for.
Well, you brought up three things that I want to follow up on. The first of which is the last thing that you mentioned, which is media. I think a lot of people look at data and analytics as being solely the purview of media agencies and not across the board. Can you talk a little bit about how you're using it in all of your agencies?
Yeah, I've been since 11 years ago now, since I joined this industry. I've always been a firm believer in the holy grail of our business, which is an integrated offering, a true integrated offering. And that is, in our case at IPG, clients are entitled to the best resources we have within IPG, notwithstanding silos and all the other stuff that the industry has been known to follow on a very dogmatic way. We don't believe in that. And the reason for that is the integrated offering is the way clients look at our services, or should look at it. And unless we're capable of bringing media, creative, digital, PR, experiential, all together in one room, we're not doing our clients a service. And what was interesting, when I first joined the industry, I know the industry goes through various changes, the Uber, the McCann World Group. I mean, that unto itself was a holding company, and it has all these resources. And in the good old days, they would just go to one Uber agency and they would do everything. Then it went through the phase of specialties, and clients would pick a media agency, they'd pick a creative agency, they'd pick a digital agency, and they'd put them all in a room, even if they're from different companies, and say, you work together and make this happen. Well, what's the chances of that really working? In some cases, it actually works, to my amazement, which is a credit to the people who are involved in it. But the real solution is for us to be able to put them all in a room and work together. And frankly, sometimes if it's not our agency, that's fine. But the notion of that integrated offering is really what clients should be insisting that they get from a service provider such as ourselves. And we have to be able to do that. And media, when I first joined the industry, media was the last to present.
Always.
Right? So I'll never forget it, my first pitch, I was not from this industry. So I went to this pitch, and I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest. I was more of an observer. And after the pitch, the client came up to me and said to me, well, what do you think? And I said, I thought that was horrible. And he looked at me, and I said, really? I just thought it was horrible, because we never got to present exactly what I thought was the most important issue, which was the media part of the presentation. And he just started to laugh. He says, you're right, which is why you're not getting the business, which was a nice message. By the way, they're now a very big client of ours. But the message was clear, that clients want to see what's relevant first. And media is such an important part of what's happening in the marketplace, and it's frankly the one area that clients have the least knowledge. And therefore, they're really relying on us to provide those insights and capabilities. So now, when you go on an integrated pitch, media is first, not last. And a lot of times, the media never even got up to present. now it's such an important part of what clients are looking for. And frankly, fortunately for us, we've had a pretty good year on that in terms of 2015. And the reason for it is we approach media, we approach creative, agency of record, all on a basis of an open architecture integrated offering, even if they don't ask for it. And what I like best about our success in that area is that clients don't know who's from which agency. And one of the more recent pitches that we won, I'll never forget, the client came up to me. You know, what I loved about that presentation was I had no idea who was from IPG, who was from media brands, who was from the creative agency. They just operated as a team. And he says, so I have a high degree of confidence that this is the team that I want to work with. So
do you think that data has helped make those silos start to go away? Because you can't ignore it.
Absolutely. The insights you get from data. Now, of course, if 80% of the data is chaotic, we get paid to figure out what's relevant and what we do with it, right? And so there's a value add. Clients just want us to add value. That's what this business is all about. And if we can do that, and we do it successfully, and we help our clients succeed in their objectives, you can't do that without great data and analytics. And it doesn't have to come from the media side of the business. Our creative businesses all have data analytics. Our PR business has a tremendous data analytics capability. In fact, Weber Shandwick, which is a pretty big PR agency, they were named one of the best digital agencies out there, and it's all because of it's all come together in terms of analytics. And RGA, which we all know what RGA is, I get a kick out of Bob because when I first met Bob, he was telling me how all the rest of our agencies are going to be dinosaurs, and his digital agency was going to be the business. And now when you look at RGA, which is, he turned out right, RGA is the business, but it's not just digital, it's everything. So he has morphed into the integrated offering, all within RGA, and then you see our traditional agencies morphing into digital agencies. So it's all coming together, and data, analytics, media, digital are all together in one room. And it's pretty exciting. And the stuff we can do now is just mind-boggling.
Well, there's been a lot, and you mentioned something about investing. There's been a lot of talk over whether you should rent or own the data and analytics. And I know others have gone out and made acquisitions, and you've gone on record as saying that it's something that you're going to do both, but primarily rent because you can test it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I believe most cases, especially on data, it's better to rent it. There's so many different sources of data, and the sources are changing dramatically. I think it's always better to rent. We do own it. We develop our own data internally, which is proprietary. We do tactical acquisitions on data. Recently, we bought a data analytics company in Israel, and they provide influencers, social influencers, and some really unique stuff. But whenever we look at the end of every one of our business operating reviews, every one of our agencies put a wish list up. And the wish list is the type of companies they would like to either own or have access to. And it could be within IPG or outside, and sometimes they'll name the target. But if we can rent it, I'd rather rent it. And when I say rent it, there are other ways of renting it. We make some strategic investments.
Facebook must know.
A little one like Facebook. We made a little strategic investment in Facebook, which turned out to be not bad. And it really gave us some interesting insight in the early stages of Facebook. I remember the first meeting after we made the investment in Facebook, and I had one of our top clients in the room, and Facebook started talking about what they think this is going to be. And the client walked out and looked at me and said he was scared shit with the capability of what this is going to be. And he turned out to be prophetic in terms of the impact of it. But you don't get to invest in companies like Facebook that often. No. This one turned out to be pretty good for us. But others, we've invested in startup companies. Samba TV, which is one that's relevant to this group in terms of data and analytics of live TV, which is something that I think is imperative. So we'll either rent it, we'll invest in the company so we have access to it, or in some cases we'll buy it. But my preference is, and everyone in the organization knows my preference is to rent it. Because when you own it, you you're sort of wedded to a platform. And frankly, our job is to be agnostic, totally agnostic in terms of advising our clients. If we own something and we're selling it as a source to our clients, on its face, it presents a conflict. So, I firmly believe in the agnostic model, which I'll digress for a second.
Sure.
Which is why on digital inventory, we do not take positions on digital inventory. So when we execute programmatic buying for our clients, we are representing our clients with respect to buying that inventory. We don't take positions in advance of that. So we're not making money on selling something we own. And we believe that's, frankly, a position that distinguishes us from our competition. Now, we do have a barter business that we do take positions, but it's a separate line of business, and clients come to us, and we use that as a separate funnel. But our programmatic buying is purely as an agency relationship. And I think in that case, for example, we are better advising our clients because we don't have, if nothing else, the perception that we're selling something that we have an economic interest in. And that's true with respect to data and analytics. If I tell you that the data analytics that I'm using to advise you is coming from our own company that we own, you're going to question whether that's the best source of that data analytics, if there's someone else that can provide that information. So wherever possible, we like to maintain our agnostic position on the advice model.
So you brought up transparency, so we might as well go there. I wasn't going to go there until the end, but there's obviously been a great debate going on in the industry. Let's just get it out of the way. We know what IPG's position is because you just said it. What do you think about the debate that's going on?
I think, you're all too young to remember IPG 10 years ago, 11 years ago.
Except me.
Except for you, Nancy and I. When I came into this business, the first thing I did was look at relationships with our clients. And frankly, 11 years ago, we embarked, Sarbanes-Oxley came out. And as a result of the Sarbanes-Oxley requirements, we looked at our contract relationships with our clients. And rebates, it seemed to me, rebates are not illegal. Certainly in the United States they're illegal, but in those countries where it's not illegal, it's a fair business practice. The issue with rebates is whether it's being properly disclosed to our clients, and are our clients dictating what happens to those rebates. Clients can say, you keep it and adjust our price, or they can say, you give us the rebates. So 11 years ago, we found a number of our contracts were unclear as to how rebates should be handled. So we set up a reserve over $300 million, and we actually gave back to our clients rebate money which was unclear in the contracts. It wasn't illegal, but it was just not clear in the contracts who it belonged to. So we felt it was appropriate for us to give those rebates back to the clients, and we changed all of our contracts on a global basis to provide for rebates directly in the contracts and how the clients want us to handle it. Now fast forward 10 years, and now it's a big issue. When we did this 11 years ago, you remember, I actually went around the globe meeting with all our agencies describing what we were doing, and some people looked at me and said, you're breaking our model. I said, well, breaking your model is, if that means being transparent with your client, yeah, I'm breaking your model. So this has been there, done that, and so from an IPG perspective, I have zero problems with what's going on because, frankly, we've been there. And in fact, some of our clients have asked, when all this came out, some of our clients asked us for provisions in the contract to cover this. And we responded, actually, we already have those provisions in the contract, and they're stronger than what you're asking us to do. So, I don't think there's anything wrong with being required to be transparent with your clients. This business is about transparency with your clients. It's a trust relationship. So what I don't know is whether it's as it looks like it's a criminal investigation the way it came out, and that bothers me. And it's I'm not worried about IPG, but I think as an industry it bothers me. But I don't think there's anything wrong with clients looking into the ability to audit what we do with them. In fact, we do that.
Right.
So.
Okay,
So how can I argue with that?
We got that subject out of the way. One of the other things that you touched on a little bit was hiring. And I think one of the things that the industry has been struggling with a little bit as data has become more and more important is how do we find the right people who can really help us with the analysis, the enlightenment, the ideas that are going to come out of this data. Because it's a very different pool of candidates than what we had traditionally been hiring. So talk a little bit about how you're approaching the hiring process.
It's kind of interesting. I had no idea what this industry was all about, to be honest. When I was on the board of directors of IPG, and as a director, you get to know the business and everything, but you really don't know what's going on within the bowels of the company until you get to be in the position I'm in. So I was just amazed at the capabilities within our company. So in the early days, for example, in the healthcare business, we have doctors on our payroll in healthcare. I mean, we have individuals who have capabilities that you would never think would be in a marketing communication company. So when you get to data analytics, we have scientists. We have design people. We have data analytics people. And you know, I think RGA has 400 data analytic people within RGA alone. So in order to be responsive to the marketplace, we have to recruit individuals who have those kind of capabilities. You can't ask someone who is a traditional agency person to walk in a room and talk to you or clients and speak the same language as what they do if they don't have it as part of their training and capabilities. And frankly, we have a hard time recruiting. So we have our own universities where we train people. But you need special type of capabilities to be able to do what we do. And when we do our talent review, every one of my agencies has to go through a talent review with me and others of corporate, and then I do that with the board of directors. And we look at the pipeline of individuals, what the business case calls for, and what we have in the pipeline in terms of capabilities. And if we don't have it, we have to get it. And you can't rely on outside services to treat clients and your business the same way you do if it's inbred. It's you know, I used to be an outside consultant, so I understand. I was a tax lawyer. That makes sense, right? I'm a tax lawyer. But you know, it's imperative that we have capabilities. This might be a good time for me to show you something, and I keep referring to RGA. Obviously, we have many great. In fact, you know, we just announced as the global agency of the year. Ad Age we have more A-list companies in Ad Age than any other holding company. So we're particularly proud of all the assets of and agencies of IPG. But RGA did something with Equinox, and as I was thinking about this presentation, and it relates to talent. They developed something for Equinox which actually uses all the stuff we're talking about. So, and besides, you don't only want to hear me talk. So I thought it would be good to sort of break it up and show you a little something that if you do this right, what the outcome would be. So let's run that, if you don't mind.
For a very long period of time, riders have been going into a dark room on a bike with one wheel, going nowhere. They weren't keeping track of their performance, and the experience was always the same. This is what led Equinox to the pursuit. The Pursuit is the world's best connected studio cycling experience that tracks every moment, pits rider against rider, team against team, and motivates people by seeing their data in real time. The Pursuit consists of 3 parts. There's the instructor console, which tracks the progress of every rider, the immersive widescreen experience, and a second screen experience that lives on a rider's phone. Your every move is animated on screen, with performance-based games created with exercise science-driven data. Games like Avalanche, Tour de Force, and Fire Up were designed on top of this data for the ultimate workout. The digital experience actually prompts you to do more physically, You're actually working harder because you want to see your results up on the screen and you want to see your team win. To create this innovative experience, it required a new type of team and a new way of working. Our data scientists, coders, and experienced designers created a studio where we prototyped on connected bikes, and the real-time data generated from these bikes informed the design. The Pursuit will completely change the way you think about connected fitness. The Pursuit is functional, beautiful, based on exercise science, and it makes you work harder than you've ever worked before. This is The Pursuit by Equinox.
Yeah, and think about what went into that. I mean, you heard him talk about data scientists, design scientists. These are all in-house capabilities. Who would have thought that a marketing communication company would have the capabilities to do that? The other work that RGA has been known, the Nike band, for example. RGA works with Nike in terms of their fitness programs. And the interface and the science that goes behind that. Or Beats, for example. The capabilities that we have with our agency, within our agencies, is just amazing. And the key to is working in groups, because that is really what is powerful about that. Everyone is working in groups, focusing on the client's objectives. And it's so powerful because everyone brings a different perspective. And if you think of this in terms of a global agency, we bring in people from all over the world. Call it in FCB, they call it a creative rumble. We bring in creative people from all over the world. They don't even speak the same language, and yet they're doing creative rumbles to think about creative ideas. That's the power when you have the right people in the room with the right resources to it. So it's really an exciting time to be in this business, and as long as you have the capability and the people to respond.
So just as we get ready to wrap up, you just got back from Cuba.
Yeah.
I think it must be fascinating to see what's going on down there. Can you talk a little bit about what you saw and what might be a business opportunity for us?
Well, first of all, I got sick. So be careful if you're going to go to Cuba, let me tell you. It's a fascinating place. The issue is, of course, the embargo. But I do believe they're positioning themselves, and we are positioning our company to be a partner down there. Because of if these embargoes ever get dropped, which obviously the current administration is heading in that direction, there are companies from all over the world that are looking to tap a resource in Cuba that potentially is enormous in terms of, but right now it's pretty much the tourist business and restaurant businesses and things like that. But ultimately, and I don't think this is going to happen overnight, but I do believe that they're looking for an influx of capital, of course, because they don't have any. And I do think it's a business opportunity. And we are, in fact, it's funny, we're in J. Walter Thompson's space. I met with a journalist in Cuba, and she says to me, marketing, I just met with someone from, I think, your business. And she takes out the business card, and it was someone from J. Walter Thompson. I said, you don't want to talk to them. But it's interesting because there are U.S. companies who want to learn about what's happening in Cuba, and from our public relations point of view right now, that's where that belongs, okay? We're not about to open an advertising agency, and there's no products to advertise in Cuba. The only product that they advertise in Cuba right now is politics, okay? So right now it's more of a PR, get to know the business environment. But it's going to be an interesting place if the embargo ever gets dropped. If the embargo doesn't get dropped, then it's a waste of time.
So with that, is there anything else you'd like to add to the conversation before we wrap up?
No, I just think this is a pretty exciting time for our business. But I think the most important thing you can take away from this is clients are really looking to us in the business to add value, period. That's what this is about. We're in a service business, and we have to be a client-centric environment. And the more resources we can bring to the table that the clients don't have, it inures to our benefit, and it distinguishes us from our competitors. So I think the data and analytics part of it, which I'll bring it back to what this conference is all about, is a critical component of that. If we're not adding those insights, and in fact, think of what's coming: virtual reality, augmented reality, some kind of reality that I don't even know exists yet, okay? I mean, it's kind of scary when you see it. But just think of the capabilities that's going to open up in terms of messaging and communications and capabilities. So get ready, because this is moving in a very fast rate, and we have to stay ahead of the curve. And that's what we're doing at IPG. We want to be ahead of the curve and invest in talent and resources to help our clients. So I thank you for the time you spent with me this morning, and good luck with the rest of the conference.
Thanks, Michael.
My pleasure.